Hi, Vincent. Hello, Vincent. Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Wait one second. I'm trying to pair my hold on. Wait one second.
I can hear you anyway.
Hello?
Hi.
Oh great. I can't. Let me try to pair it one more time. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, there we go. How are you? How was your day?
Yes, it's been busy. And this chat I had with this Christian went better than I expected. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it.
No, you did send it to me.
Mm-hmm. So,
What
and I'm speaking to him again tomorrow about the Trinity. So,
who is
um,
this?
he's somebody called Kevin something. He's got a strange name. Um, but anyway, he's very Christian and theological.
Okay, and you're talking to him about the Trinity tomorrow.
Yes. Well, I thought he wouldn't even speak to me, but he did. So that was nice.
Good. 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 Very good.
And
So
he
I
actually agreed that America isn't a Christian nation, and he objected to being called a Christian nation when people aren't. So I thought that was quite interesting of him.
well, that's congruous.
Well, I mean, people are confused, aren't they? I mean, people who aren't Christian insist they're Christian, and people who are Christian insist they're not, that America isn't a Christian nation. So there seems to be a lot of confusion about, what I keep calling the official moral system. And I'm saying, this is so obviously important. I don't see how any country can survive without one. Because if you don't have an official moral system, you're basically saying, we're going to trust our corrupt and incompetent leaders to make up the rules as they go along, which is crazy.
Yes. Well, Christianity, actually, it's so interesting. I had group therapy today, and it was about indoctrination. But the whole conversation, so she's Catholic, my therapist, and the other guy is likely a Christian. But we were talking about, so they were
Y-
talking about faith. We were talking about faith versus works, and they didn't understand. I was trying to tell them, I said, look, if you believe that you can murder, steal, kill, all this other kind of stuff, and then proclaim belief in Jesus Christ and get away with it all, you're more likely to commit crimes than if you know, number one, you're going to be punished in this life, and number two, that you won't make it into paradise. Um, so, this faith based system is actually not good. And I said even reincarnation is better because then at least you fear coming back as some kind of animal or something like that.
Yeah. So you're saying that these two therapists you have, one of whom is a Calvinist and the other a Catholic, are antinomians? Is that what you're saying?
Well, she's Catholic and I think he's Christian and he was a patient as well. That it was group therapy, and yes, they're antinomial and they just don't get. They don't get. They just think they don't get that punishments for crimes, you know, um, deter crime, and that basically believing you can still get into heaven even though you've done something wrong causes more crime. And
I think,
we were talking about adultery, and I said I would believe, since adultery is illegal in Islamic countries, that there's less adultery. And they were like, oh well, they're just doing it behind the scenes. And which is probably true. I know that these things go underground, but it is harder because if you're scared of getting caught, less people are going to do it.
well, that's right. I mean, no Muslim ever claimed that there are no, Muslim adulterers, fornicators, sodomites, etc. They're just saying because there's a law against it, and we enforce that law, not as much of it occurs. And there's also this English saying, I believe, which says rules are made to be broken. In a sense that, I mean, it's not saying that you should go around breaking rules, but the person who made the rule anticipated that there will be people who break them, and has already prescribed a punishment.
Yes, well, they just didn't get this. They did not understand. And I told them that if you don't punish crimes, you're going to have more crime. And they weren't buying it.
Hmm. How
And
how
also,
how how odd though.
and we were talking about how what's more important, belief or action. And so they were more convinced that faith and belief is more important than action, whereas the Noahide laws are less. If you read Secular by Design, he says it's not really, they're not as in, okay, here's something. In a Noahide state, the state does not teach proper religion. The state is not in control of giving you doctrine. They are just there to enforce wrong actions. So, yes, wrong actions, like proclaiming a pagan god is a deity or bowing before an idol, but they're not interested in telling you what you have to believe.
I think this is to do with this predestination thing. Um, I don't know if I sent you, I think I'm sure I did, about this hyper Calvinist who, and Calvinism is basically the belief in predestination, or the emphasis on predestination, because, the other forms of Christians are basically saying, we're given the free will. Some of us will believe, others not. And Calvin thought he was being really clever by saying, well, God already knows, which of us is going to hell, and therefore it doesn't much matter what we do because God already knows. And people just thought, yay, we can do what we like, and who knows, who cares. And I think Calvin must have been such an evil man, because obviously people would be happy to hear what he said and say, oh, don't worry about it, you're either going to heaven or you're not, and just do what you like because God already knows whether you're going to hell or heaven. and,
That's
and
what
I thought,
my cousin believes, that she can murder people as long as she has accepted Jesus into her heart.
well, I mean, that's kind of like, what the mafia might think, right? you know
Well, I mean, it doesn't help society to think like that.
No, because it's antinomian. Because I mean, if you think of all these rules, the Ten Commandments, it's sort of like, well, why did God make these commandments if He didn't expect people to obey them? I mean, why would He bother? He's not stupid if He did those things. Why make rules and then say, oh, it doesn't matter, if you don't obey them, because I know which one of you is going to heaven. So I think really Calvin was a very evil man, but obviously what he said was very popular. So I guess that's why he became so famous. I mean, the other thing he did that was bad was saying, "Oh, it's okay. Um, a little bit of usury is okay." He was the one who said that. Did you know that?
Yes, a little bit of usury is okay.
And now we're way over our heads in debt because he said that, because Martin Luther was very, very firm about it, no usury whatsoever. And I suppose, if you're going to be sneaky and cunning, you'd say, well, actually, verse in there's no verse in the New Testament that tells us, you know, that forbids usury. And oh yes, and then okay, there is a verse in the Torah that tells Jews not to practice usury with each other. But we're not Jews, so we can. I'm sure that was the kind of reasoning, he would have used, and which was accepted in those mercantile times, because basically you want to practice usury if you want to, um, if you want to make war, and and also for your business ventures.
Mm-hmm.
And to finance the British East India Company or the Dutch East India Company, and all these um, enterprises. They need money. They need capital. And what would be easier to say? Well, if you lend us money, we're going to give you X rate of interest. So please. And obviously some of the ventures went quite well, but others didn't. But anyway, we have been warned, because I guess with usury, people will just get used to the idea. It's like, well, if I haven't got the money, I'll just borrow, and borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow irresponsibly until eventually you borrowed so much people stop lending to you, and you don't even own anything, and I guess that's when you have to sell yourself into slavery, and yeah, and then that's how you end up being enslaved. As a Muslim told me, irresponsible borrowing eventually leads to slavery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a trap, and Calvin, I think, is the villain of the piece. But obviously, he lived 500 years ago or something, and nobody makes this connection unless you take the Quran seriously, and notice that, well, if God told the Jews not to practice usury on each other, it can't be that good for us Gentiles, because Jews are God's chosen people, and He would want to protect them. So obviously His laws would, for them would is designed to protect them, and we should take heed. But the Christians kind of messed around with the rule, and then then the Quran was revealed, and it said absolutely no usury. But anyway, people just ignored it. But you can kind of work out the fork in the road, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Muslims had principles, they wouldn't practice usury, but they do. And it's like, have some principles, and sacrifice. Sacrifice for your principles.
Well, unfortunately, people in charge can be very corrupt, and at the end of the day, rules are only are not even worth a piece of paper they're written on if nobody follows them,
Well,
as Americans are fighting to their cost about their constitution.
Nobody forces Muslims to take out credit cards. Okay, like nobody forces them to do that. They don't have to do that. And
Well, some of them don't. William Brianis was kind of, virtue signaling, when he was saying he doesn't even have a credit card.
yeah,
But
I mean, you would have to rent. You wouldn't be able to buy a house because you wouldn't be able to take out a loan. And just rent your apartment, live in small apartments, and pay for everything in cash. And that's just what you would have to do. And too bad. And they're not willing to do it. And so I don't really feel that bad for them.
well, actually, how an Islamic bank would do it would be to actually buy the house that you want to live in, and then you pay back the bank who owns your house in installments. I mean,
Yes,
that's how it would be
with a
done.
fee. With a fee, there's a fee
Sure.
associated with. with a fee.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. I mean, of course, it's not done for free, but I mean, it wouldn't be, compound interest. It wouldn't be, variable rates of interest. It would be, you know, and also it does cause inflation. So what we want is the dollar in your pocket to stay to remain the same and not just be eroded, and then you think, whatever I earned, the its value is being eroded every day. I have to find new ways of investing my money, and then people end up gambling on the property market, and until nobody can afford to buy their property, and then ends up living with their parents and maybe murdering their parents. I mean, obviously things are not right.
well, I was telling you that something's not right because people are becoming more and more and more stupid.
Did you Are you using your conversation with your therapist today as an example of their stupidity?
Well, I don't want to talk negatively about my therapist online. I don't know if she'll ever hear this. She does read my blog, so I don't want to say that about her. But I will say that generally people are becoming so stupid that it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm having a hard time believing that electric grids and power plants and nuclear plants and the
Are
economy.
still functioning.
Yeah, I don't know how because everyone seems so fucking retarded.
Well, I mean that's why some. I'm reminded of this one of Pliny's letters, and I think he was talking about his father, his uncle or something, and his uncle was there when Mount Vesuvius was e- erupting, and one of the descriptions of the Romans in their terror was, "Why aren't we dead yet?" Because of the smoke and not being able to see, and things falling from the sky on top of them, that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of mental illness is caused by why are we still alive? Why is everything still functioning? And that's why I think a lot of people want the world to end. That's why they're kind of thinking, I can't even plan for the future. I'm just waiting for the Messiah to come.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I mean, I told you that even though I'm pro-natalist, like, I can't have children. I can't bring children into this world. This world is so fucked up. Like, there's nothing left. There's nothing here. Like, why would I torment another soul and bring them onto this earth? Like, why? It seems so cruel. You know what I mean? I'm unhappy, so why would I do that to someone else?
Well, I mean, people do have children in terrible circumstances. Actually, I remember 9/11. This was really weird, and I probably won't be able to find it again. But there were some women saying, "Oh, it makes me feel really horny watching the complete destruction of the Twin Towers." And so maybe in bombed out places, people do have sex and conceive their war babies, and I suppose it's just as well.
Well,
But anyway, there is a saying that goes, there is never a convenient time to have a baby, because when you're young you want to have fun. When you're old, things get harder. So there's no convenient time. So you might as well get it over and done with when you're young and full of energy. And it's like, if one of your children die, you can have some more. I mean, that
mhm.
that was the whole idea of people getting married in their 20s. Because if they marry late, then they'll only have one. They're going to wrap it up in cotton wool, and then it'll be spoiled and weak and overprotected and mollycoddled, and that would be actually degenerate.
We're in big trouble. I mean, it's a natural order trying to procreate in an unnatural world. Like, our lives are now so unnatural, and it's like the natural system just it doesn't work with the natural system of procreation. Yeah, I mean, if
Well,
you're
the
not having.
natural system of procreation is wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And every mother is a single mother looking after the children on their own, and the men are feral and go around raping and having sex with random women. I mean, that's a natural, well, animal state of existence, unless they live in a herd. And in a herd, there are very strict rules of who gets to have sex with whom. And usually, in a pride of lions, there's only one male, and he gets to have sex with all the females. So all the cubs are his. But then, he doesn't live a very long life because there will be other lions who fight and kill him in order to have access to his harem. So, it's not that much fun for lions or stags or, animals like that. I think with elephants, um, I think that the men are the males are the loners, and the women just, yeah, I think it's a complete matriarchy. I'll check that. I'm not sure about the elephants.
Actually, I
But
watched it.
I mean, they all have their different rules. It's not like, you know, they don't have any rules and get to have sex with whoever they like.
I watched a documentary on elephants once, and they were showing that the poachers were killing the adult males for their tusks, and
Tusks.
they were showing that the young males without the adult male to keep them in check were like wild and crazy and causing problems.
Yes, rogue elephants.
Yeah, they were showing that, they're unruly and that they destroy property and that they're not well socialized, and they were showing that. I remember it was an elephant documentary, and I remember my mother said, "Oh yes, it's just like humans," you know,
Right.
right? It's just like humans. I mean, it would have not been nice to have a present father. Like I saw this father with his young child, and they were in the gym, and he was all muscular and doing his thing, but he was teaching his little child to like lift these little weights, and you know what I mean. It would have been nice to have that, but I didn't really get that. It would have been yes, it would have been nice. So, at the same time, if the parents just can't make it work, I mean, look, I couldn't ask my parents to stay together if they were that unhappy, and they were that unhappy. And it is an American thing not to force, pursuit of happiness. It is, hard for Americans to force unhappiness on each other. It's
Well, I mean, all it does is like, you just make the logical decision so people don't think, could it be this or could it be that, and they're not sure. And I'm saying, using my arguments, it's like obviously you guys need a religion. I mean, for your own protection, even if you don't care about the rest of the world, it's like, if you don't have a religion, then Congress will just make up the rules as they go along, and Congress are being bribed by all these, you know, secret or not so secret organizations who pay for the campaign donations of the two parties, every time there is an election. And obviously the media profit from this, and they want more elections because, then the money gets churned around. And the media would get their, advertising, whatever. And this is a very corrupt system. I mean, I know people, blame the Jewish media and whatever, but um, the whole system is kind of, well, a contract um, that relies on the apathy of the average female voter, because really nobody cares about what men want. It's all about, oh, what do the women want, because the women are the biggest voting group who will be easily influenced.
Well, yes, but also, if women vote and men are less likely to vote. And so, you know what, get what you pay for. You know what I mean? Like, you get what you pay for. If you don't, want to vote, like, my father was typical until very recently. He didn't vote. He never cared. He didn't believe that it mattered, and they were all assholes, and all this other kind of stuff. And you know,
And
my
now he's wondering, what the hell is going on. I mean, some people, wait until it hurts before they do something about it, and other people just think about these things all the time,
well, he
even when
doesn't
they're not hurting.
he doesn't want Trump because Trump fast tracked the vaccine. My father was very much against the vaccine. He didn't believe in it at all. He thought it was a problem. He thought it was a bad thing. And, so now he's not pro Trump. Actually, I mean, so many people have turned against Trump. I don't know if he can win, to be honest with you, because, I don't know if he can win because so many people have turned against him over the vaccine, over the Noahide laws, over this. Now, you saw that now he wants hate crimes punished by death, right? You saw that?
No. When did he
Yeah,
say that?
he said it. I mean, I've seen the videos and everything. He wants hate crime. He said hate crime and mass murder. I mean, to equate those two things together is absurd. And, this idea of a hate crime, what is a hate crime? If you say the Holocaust never happened, is that a hate crime?
Could you send me the video or maybe play it here?
Well, I can't play it because I'm on my phone, but let me send it to you in Telegram. Hold on, let me just
Okay.
find it.
Yeah, because I think our 6 viewers might like to see that too. Hello,
Send.
Bruno. Yeah, and I think, if Trump is getting increasingly dodgy, I mean, the point is that you don't have to wait until the next election to solve the problem once you decide that elections don't solve any problems. But, people just can't help it. And I feel that, elections are like the carrot being dangled before the donkey.
He wants drug dealers executed, police killers executed. Where's this video? He said hate crimes. It's probably on YouTube.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have, people just have to understand that, it's not just a matter of trusting a particular man. He's got to endorse a whole bunch of policies, or, preferably, well, it has to be a moral system. It's like, and what is a moral system? I don't know. It could be fascism, Nazism, communism, or, liberalism, or whatever. But it can't be just trust me. Trust you? Why?
Hold on, I think I found the video. Just give me a second. Okay, I got it. I'm sending it to you.
Great.
I'm also directing the Department of Justice.
Hold on. I can't believe you didn't see this.
Well, maybe I just haven't been paying attention.
Okay, I sent it to you.
This is 2019.
Okay, it was 2019, but still, he did say it. I mean, this is while he was president. He said hate crimes and mass murder. I mean,
Oh, it's just one moment while I play it. Present. Share screen. Share screen. Trump calls for death penalty.
And make a
Oh,
very
hell,
big
sorry, I
difference.
didn't even do it properly.
Republicans and Democrats have proven
that we can join together in a bipartisan fashion to address this plague. Last year, we enacted the Stop School Violence and Fix NICS Acts into law, providing grants to improve school safety and strengthening critical background checks for firearm purchases. At my direction, the Department of Justice banned bump stocks. Last year, we prosecuted a record number of firearms offenses. But there is so much more that we have to do. Now is the time to set destructive partisanship aside, so destructive, and find the courage to answer hatred with unity, devotion, and love. Our future is in our control. America will rise to the challenge. We will always have, and we always will, win. The choice is ours, and ours alone. It is not up to mentally ill monsters. It is up to us.
Thank you for that, Vincent. I guess that that was done when he was president. I don't, who knows what he will do if he gets in with things being so abnormal now. But I guess he's got something called I don't know the 47 points or something, doesn't he?
40
Vincent?
points. What are the 40 points?
I hold on. I seem to remember that there was a list of things he on his website, giving a list of things about what he was going to do if he was elected. So I can't remember what he used. It's sort of like the 95 theses of Martin Luther or something like that. And I think it was 40 something of them. But I'm saying this is the problem, and it's just so frustrating when I talk to Americans and they sort of don't get it, or they don't care. I don't know, or they don't understand what I'm saying. Agenda 47, that's what I meant. And so he's got 47 items on his agenda.
Oh, his 47 agenda points.
Yeah.
Like Hitler's 20 points. At least he has points. At least he has an organized list, which is nothing like anyone else is willing to do. And the problem is they're just going to rip that list apart. And excuse me, everyone's scared these days to take a stand on anything and make a platform, because nobody can agree on anything, and we're so divided into so many sects and schisms, and I don't know. But Trump Noahide is really trending on Twitter, and everyone is just, first of all, I want to say that I actually made a mistake. Trump's Education and Sharing Day never mentions the Noahide laws, but that has spread like wildfire, though, obviously his daughter's Chabad Lubavitch, and the Sanhedrin asked him, the unofficial Sanhedrin asked him to uphold the Noahide laws. He's surrounded by, but I'm glad to see that a lot of people are at least talking about him and the Noahide laws, but I don't think he can get in.
Well, there's some people who say, well, of course he's going to get in, but they'll put him in jail or kill him or whatever. Well, I think it would be a waste of time voting for anyone. I mean, people say, vote for him in such large numbers that they won't even find enough fake votes to rig the vote. That's what they said. But I'm also saying that more than voting is required. I mean, people need to say what the problem is. How did it get this bad? For people to be so crazy and stupid. And I'm saying, you know, I keep going on about, you know, the eugenic practice of marriage, but obviously, it, how the next generation is conceived and parented will, you know, will have an effect on the quality of the next generation. Obviously, you know, it's not just, you know, enough to, you know, find, you know, two healthy, normal, you know, good-looking people, you know, and just have children. You kind of need to make sure that the children are, you know, equal in quality to their parents or better. But you know, they can't be allowed to be worse than their parents. And what I've been trying to say is, you know, okay, it's very difficult to say, you know, who is better and who is not, but at least you can sort of say that, you know, obviously it's bad if your parents were married and, you know, and you're not a married parent, or if you don't have children, because, you know, if you just translate that into the animal kingdom, and you're um, observing the progress of a species, I mean, you'd be thinking, well, oh, why aren't they replacing themselves? Why are they decreasing in number? Why do they seem, you know, weak? Why do they seem stupid? What's happened to them? You know? And
Yeah,
you know, I think we already know the answer. I mean, of course, it's to do with parenting, and of course, it's to do with partner selection. And obviously, you know, the practice of free love is interfering with our partner selection, well, the quality of our partner selection.
yes. I mean, yeah, of course.
Because, you know, fornication is a marriage substitute. And you know, people, you know, once upon a time they understood. It's like, no, you can't allow them to, you know, sleep around because then they'll never marry. And obviously that is true. Oh, you can't allow them to be gay, or you know, because, you know, even happily married couples will be horrified at the number of children they would have if every time they had sex they had children. So, you know, that there would be some element of birth control. And also we know that working mothers will not be having as many children as housewives.
Can you give me 1 second? I want to see. Someone said that they supported Trump because they thought he would support the no high laws. I want to see if that's what they really say. If you give me 1 second,
Sure.
and then we can play it. Hold on 1 second.
Found some reasons to refuse to attend. But regardless of this, I'm so proud to tell you that we have a new president, American president. He's a great man. He's concerned in helping in these issues as well. I talked to him several times. I was never at his campaign elections. I'm talking about Donald Trump. And I'm confident as soon as he passes the elections, we will have some tools to promote our ideas to our government, including our Congress. And I promise very soon we will have a meeting with Congressman Danny Donovan, who you know.
Okay. Well, he said that when Trump gets in, they would their ideas would get through. He didn't. Okay. He did say it without saying the Noah Hyde laws, but okay. He said he supported him. Who's Boris Pinnakus?
Who?
Boris Pinnakus. I want to see who he is. Boris Pinnakus.
I can't see
Pincus.
anyone with that name.
Boris Pincus.
Why you meant? I don't see anyone in the live chat with that name.
No. Boris Pincus is the one who said that he supported Trump.
Who? Okay.
He supported Trump because he would support the Noah Hyde laws.
Pincus is a Jewish name, isn't it? Phineas. I think the anglicization is Phineas.
Yeah, these you know, but I can't. How is he going to get in? How?
Because people will vote for him because they're so fed up with Biden, I guess.
Well, the people who hate
Maybe they're
him,
so outraged at how badly he's been treated.
I
But
don't know.
I see a lot of cowardice because people who used to support him are saying, no, I'm going to waste my vote on Rand Paul or something like that. And I'm saying, well, what's the point of wasting your vote? Well, and I sort of worked out that he just didn't want to say he was voting Trump to the people around him, and because he didn't want to have to defend himself or be cancelled or whatever. So he just wanted to be able to say that he was, voting for somebody that Americans would have heard of, but not Trump. I think it could be something as petty as that. It just shows you the cowardice of people. Because, okay, if you were voting for Trump and you were scared of being ostracized by your colleagues and friends, then you just wouldn't be able to talk about politics at all. So, maybe if you want to talk about politics, you have to pretend you're voting for, somebody that's not Trump, but not Biden either.
Well, there's that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running, but he's there. He could be taking away from. I mean, people say that. I know that Trump supporters are actually funding him because they think that it'll happen. They will get rid of what's it called? That it will take votes away from Biden and maybe help Trump get in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why Americans. Okay, if I were an American, it would be, well, obviously the problem is those political parties. They do no good at all. And the founding father, George Washington, told us not to. So what the hell are we doing? Everything he warned Americans not to do, they've done. So, I mean, why not just go through his speech? But that's too much to ask, it seems. You haven't read his speech, have you?
George Washington's farewell speech? No, I have
Mhm.
not. No, I have
Yeah.
not.
You prefer to read about the no-hide laws.
Other things I sent you, the thing I'm doing the work on pyramidology a little bit. I'm picking that back up. I have so much work to do on that. It's a very interesting topic. nohidepyramidology.blogspot.com is the website that I post about those things.
But why pyramidology? Nobody takes it seriously, so why?
No, not because pyramidology to take seriously, but to show that there was a Freemason British Israelist conspiracy, to basically rule the world with the Jews.
What year was this?
Oh, this was 100 years ago or more.
Mm-hmm.
But they've given up on it since, of course.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess if you're an adherent of one of the Abrahamic faiths, the Jews will just all be a bit magic for you. I'm sure, because it's sort of, they're so ancient, they're always being mentioned in the Bible, and all these stories about them, and I think Jews kind of loom large in the consciousness of Muslims and Christians. And so I guess any conspiracy theory would be, based on, some theory about Jews. Mind you, there was a time in England when the English were full of Catholic conspiracy theories, but that was during the Reformation. But I think these stories.
Actually, just recently the Vatican reaffirmed its ban on Catholics being Freemasons.
Yeah, because they don't want Catholics to be mixing with other faiths, because they don't want, a full and frank discussion being made in a friendly, non-judgmental fraternity. They don't want any discussions about, what the Catholic Church would do to Catholics. And I mean, I imagine the reason is, we don't want our Catholic brethren to be going to their Masonic meetings, because they might talk to Jews and Muslims and deny the Trinity. I mean, I guess if I were Pope, I'd think that.
Yeah, well, he doesn't, they don't affirm the Trinity, and also they don't talk about Jesus in the lodge because they feel it would be, they feel it
Divisive.
would be divisive, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, there are all these reasons too, and I knew that. Do you remember Mr. Mr. Pelou?
Yes, I remember him.
And so he was basically a Mason. I think he got kicked out or something, but he was always saying how wonderful the Masons were, and then he got talking to this Muslim woman who was very, very anti-Mason.
A lot of
So
Muslims are anti-Mason.
yeah, because I think it's probably because their leaders don't want them conspiring against the government. I think that's basically it. I mean, governments can get very, very paranoid about these things. Yeah, you're talking about this. When I was doing Latin, and so there's a story about by Pliny the Younger, about his uncle during the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, but there was also Pliny writing to the Emperor Trajan. And he was saying, we occasionally get fires, and it would be really helpful if we had a fire brigade so all the men could, help with the putting out of the fires. And he wrote to the emperor, and the emperor said no, because he didn't want these men to be, getting together and being friendly with each other and conspiring to overthrow him. And this was just a fire brigade.
I'm sorry, who started this fire brigade?
Pliny was a Roman administrator known to write letters that, I guess modern students of Latin would have to translate. And one of his letters was to the Emperor Trajan, asking permission for him to form a fire brigade in the city that he was governor of. And the response of the emperor was, no, you can't, because they'll only, conspire against me.
Right. I know there were some good Roman emperors that were into social welfare, and that was nice. I know they weren't always appreciated, but
yeah, but this one was saying, no, I don't want you to have a fire brigade, because even if it would help put out fires in the cities of my people, because they might conspire against me. So I'm and this is fire brigade, but the Masons would be, I guess, a kind of potential for conspiracies. And maybe the founding fathers, being Masons, had something to do with their, the male solidarity that they were capable of achieving, because they were members of a fraternity. I mean, I know people, say, talk about Masons as if they were Jews or something, but I don't think, I don't think that's, I don't equate Masons with Jews. I mean, there may be some kind of, no-hit conspiracy, I suppose, to, just keep Christians in the fraternity until it is safe for Jews and Muslims to point out to Christians the error of the Trinity. Maybe that was really the plan all along. We don't know. But, as regards how people, okay, you think people are stupid and degenerate, and I guess, politically inert, nothing seems to be able to move them into action. But that's because they assume failure. Or they're just not being emotional enough about it, or things aren't bad enough for them to really want to do anything.
Well, I feel everyone sucks, and I think that it says a lot that the two best fucking men in all of America are Trump and Biden. Like, that's the best that we have. Like, we can't do any better than that, and it's really sad. And I mean, like I said, these men are too old. It's this old generation needs to give up power and hand it over. Like we said, a president should be in his late 40s or 50s, because then he's still young, he still has energy, and he understands both young and old. He's in between the 70 and 80-year-olds and the 20-year-olds, and it's like Trump is the grandfather of the younger generation, so he's two generations removed. But if you're in the middle, you're one generation removed from above, one generation removed from below, and so you're kind of like equal balanced. I mean, that's John F. Kennedy was 43 when he got elected, which is kind of young, but I mean, you want someone not too old.
Yeah, and I think people are now getting it together to blame somebody else. So they blame the Jews, they blame the blacks, they blame the women, and now they're going to blame the boomers, big time. But I think eventually everybody's going to get blamed, because they are part of the problem. And I'm saying, if people get to the solution earlier, you have some kind of moral authority over people who didn't. Because you can't tell somebody, I told you so, or I knew this thing was going to go wrong, if you never told them so. So, I mean, do you really disagree with me that the problem with, the reason why everybody's so stupid and corrupt is because, that there isn't a rule system for them to even adhere to. I mean, you could say, okay, you could have the most perfect system, but corrupt people wouldn't enforce the rules, equally or fairly or at all, and I would agree, and therefore you have to have, true believers, and there is a way of working out whether somebody, follows the rules or not. Politicians would have a history, like, they did this or they didn't do that, or, they have some kind of track record, and you can work out from their track record whether they have principles or not.
I also think it has to do with the technology. I think it has to do with the fact that I think a big problem is, that people won't read anything longer than a tweet anymore, and like when you wrote that book and then they were making fun of you in the Cube for saying, they were like, who writes a book in 2023? And, it's your book is what, 100 pages?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in fairly large print.
And they can't even read that. Okay. Like, they don't read that. I get that all, oh God, what is the TLR, too long to read?
Yes.
Oh no, it's TLDR, too long didn't read.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Too long didn't read. And, it's like, what, it's like I get this all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, they can't even bring themselves to say too long didn't read. Everything, and that it annoys me. Everything is becoming truncated. Like, there's so many of these truncated acronyms out there for every single phrase. People are too lazy to type out, you know, I mean, I know I used acronyms. I do use acronyms, but not, I very rarely use acronyms to make, sentences shorter, because what if somebody doesn't understand, what it is? And there's all these new ones that I don't know. You have to be young to know all these new ones. And it's just like things are becoming just like dumber and dumber and dumber and simpler. And I really think the technology has something to do with it. We're just, and
People are just not capable of thinking anything through. Did I tell you about this Jehovah's Witness from America who was in London and he wanted to meet me at Speaker's Corner? Did I tell you about that?
when was this?
2 weeks ago or something?
No, you never told me. He's a practicing Jehovah's Witness.
I think he's ex, but I met him through Jacob Varturecci. And it's like I when you're in maybe in a group with somebody and you never know what they stand for because they don't say anything, and he said, oh, I'd like to come and take pictures, and I thought, well, I'm not some circus act. So I was kind of trying to sound him out and find out what he stood for, and he wouldn't even tell me. So it's like, oh, well, come and I'm on holiday, tell you can ask me all those questions. And I thought, no, I'm not going to, meet somebody who won't even tell me his views about anything. And then a few days passed, and he sent me this video of him talking to Paul Williams. Do you know Paul Williams?
Remind me.
Well, he has his channel called Blogging Theology, and he gets to interview all these sort of famous Islamic
Yes.
scholars.
The
And
he's a non-practicing homosexual.
that's right. And so this okay, so this Jehovah's Witness is, I'd say he's quite good looking, but a bit dim, or more than a bit dim. But anyway, Paul spoke to him, so there was a video of him talking to Paul, and I thought the questions he asked Paul were so dumb. But one of the things he did say was, I'm Jehovah's Witness, and so Paul asked, why did you leave? And he said, oh, it's a blood transfusions. And I thought, that's just so weak, and I think Paul should have said, oh, did you are you recovered now from your, whatever thing it was that made you need a blood transfusion? And I don't think he even had a blood transfusion. But anyway, he's just one of those, quite good-looking guys. And I heard the exchange, and he obviously just didn't really understand anything. And so I'm quite pleased I didn't, take the trouble to go and meet him and whatever. But you would have thought that that'd be interesting questions that he could have asked Paul, like um, how is Islam better than Christianity? Because Paul Williams used to be a Christian. I mean, he could have asked some interesting question, but he just didn't ask anything at all.
Nobody asks any interesting questions. Everyone is just so shallow and benign and
Bovine, maybe you mean.
bovine. Yeah, I mean, it's just I feel like every single last person is just stupid.
Well, I agree. Even when they're trying, they're stupid.
Yeah,
Like
I know.
his witness.
There's
But it's like,
something.
oh yeah, he's a good-looking guy. Yeah, he was wearing a nice jacket. But that's all I can remember.
I mean, there must be some smart people, because I find papers and I find websites that are not useless. I mean, it's just, but these people must be so far and few between that you don't really meet them in real life, or you know, I don't know, they're not making YouTube videos. I think, like, um,
They're not saying what they really mean. That
well, I
that
think,
that
I think,
that's the
I think
problem.
deeper people. I'm not sure. I don't want to say. I just feel as though deeper people, they want to write it out and quote everything and show the sources. So, they want to write a website, and maybe they're less likely to, like, I feel as though deeper people tend to have maybe less flamboyant personalities, and they're not going to go on YouTube. And if they do, it's not going to be entertaining and silly and all this other kind of stuff. And so it's hard to find their videos, and they don't have that many views. And, it's very hard to come across anyone whose time is worth it. I can't, I absolutely everything, I look up when I'm looking up about the Noahide laws, I find, these videos by Christians, and, they never get straight to the point. It's always like, oh, it's they have to go on for half an hour about nonsense and about, you have somebody at the door.
You don't have to answer it.
Um, um, they go on about trivial things for half an hour before they get to the point, and then when they do get to the
Yeah,
point.
yeah, I know what you mean because I've been to talks and it comes question time and it's like one sentence. Please just ask your question in one sentence, and they can't. They just have to ramble around all over the place, and it's as if they kind of need this process of putting the ignition into. The key into the ignition before they can get to the point. So even somebody being interviewed on radio or whatever, they have to say, "Oh, hello, how are you?" And it's like you don't have to say that. It's a waste of time even saying that. Just ask your question or make your point or whatever. And
Mhm.
they can't, you sort of feel they kind of need, a little startup to their speech before they get to the point. And of course, Christians are the worst because, they actually have no point to make. And they try to disguise that, with a cloud of inky words. So they're particularly annoying. Um,
And they can't stay on the point. I mean, I got that. I used to go on people's shows, and I went on Deanna Spingola, and people would call in, and their questions that first of all, half of them didn't even have questions. They just wanted to ramble on about nonsense, and it had nothing to do what we were talking about, and it was just like it had absolutely nothing to do what we were talking about.
yeah. And um, I suppose, I think we probably could do a TV show or a radio show quite well because I think we are able to stick to the point. And most people can't. They're just, there to, give vent to their feelings. Like,
But is that
remember
is that what
Dalmatian
people
Dog?
is that what people even want? Because you see these videos, and I mean, lots of people have watched them, and it's just garbage. It's, I feel like people want garbage. You know what I mean? It's like garbage people want garbage videos, and and it's like it's like people prefer low quality.
I think what they're looking for, on these YouTube channels is just a personality. They feel they can trust the person, that they think his views are safe, or they mostly agree with him, and they kind of pity the person. I mean, that Andy Nowicki has quite a following, and I used to think, if I were a white nationalist, I would forbid him from ever expressing himself because he's just so disgraceful to the white man. It's like, ooh, you
Who?
can't.
Andy Nowicki.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, he just goes on, and it's so pitiful and contemptible and disgusting watching him pick at his own face and stroke himself. It's just so cringe. And then he streams and he's lying on his pillow, and you think, ugh. But anyway, he has a following because I think, people want to look at these people to feel better than they are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. The other thing that I hate that, they all do this and other Christians do it all the time, and not just the Christians, but I notice Christians do it a lot, where they purposely don't give you the sources. It's always like, I'm not going to give you the sources because I want you to go research this stuff yourself so that you don't feel as though like I've tainted you. No, show the sources. Where are your sources? Show people the factual information. Like all this, like go do the research for yourself. Like, you're going to make people go do hours and hours and hours of research?
Or guess at what you're trying to say. No, chapter and verse, chapter and verse.
Yeah, no, it's so annoying. Like, I always show my sources, and it's just that thing. Like, it's like if you have a fact, show your fact. Don't tell people you're not giving them the source because you want them to look it up themselves. I think it was. I don't want to say 100%, but I think it was Jen Sharp that was talking to me about that. That you don't want to give out. She said you want people to feel as though they've come to this conclusion themselves.
Oh.
And like I told you, like, I'm used to spoon feeding. Jehovah's Witnesses spoon feed. They get, everything is there for you. They quote the scripture. They give the source. You have to look it up. But I mean, they give you the source in the book where you can look it up yourself. It's not like some wild goose chase where, it's like, confirm this for yourself. Like, confirm it where? Like, who's going to do 5 hours of internet research to confirm these things?
No, I mean that's why, in law, you make a claim and then you have to support it with, I don't know, witness statements or, statute or case law or something. You,
Gross.
you don't get to, make these, unsupported claims and expect to be taken seriously. And that should be how things are run.
Well, this is what,
Otherwise, so much time is wasted.
this is what people want, and if you don't do it that way, then you're autistic. Like this, oh, this is the other thing I hate about the modern generation, where everything is autism. If you put any effort into anything, you're autistic. Like,
Or try hard.
yeah, or try hard, or yeah, that effort post, like, oh, that's an effort post, which I don't know if that means they're making fun of you because you put effort into it, or if it's a post that it takes them effort to actually read it and understand. Like, I hate effort posts. And then equating it with autism, and everything's autism and everyone's autistic, and of course, they would accuse Jehovah's Witnesses of being autistic because they have in-depth articles, and everything is outlined for you, and they're very meticulous. If you're a meticulous person, you're autistic, and if you give more than one fact, then there's something wrong with you. And it's, I know Stephen J. James accuses you of being autistic because you have a focused mission, and you have something that you focus on, and it's kind of the same topic with additional information all the time. And so therefore you're autistic because you're not bouncing all over the place. You're not you're not making a hodgepodge. They want you to bounce all over the place because their brains bounce all over the place. Like, their brains are everywhere, and they can't stay on a subject, and they can't focus on a topic. And it's not, they don't like if other people focus on a topic.
Yeah, they have a very low boredom threshold, and they suffer from ADHD. And I guess the solution is don't talk to people like that because they're not worth talking to.
But
Talk
it's
to
like
people.
everyone's like that. It's like everyone's like that these days.
Well, since leaving the cube, I've just found better people to talk to on spaces and things.
Yeah, I still post in the queue, but they fucking, they barely respond, and when they do respond, it's just to tell me that, they don't care. Like,
Well, you should be more active on Twitter because you do get,
I am active on Twitter now. I've been posting, I've been doing spaces, I've been doing everything.
you don't seem to tweet a lot.
I'm starting to tweet more. I just started that. I've been forgetting to tweet, but I've been doing the spaces, and the spaces, I enjoy them. I don't even want to go on my YouTube channel anymore because, it's like I feel like I get more viewers, I get more views, but also the quality of conversation is better. People actually join in, and, we get different kinds of people. YouTube seems dead. I mean, I'm sick of YouTube. I haven't put up a YouTube video in a long time. I'm just absolutely tired, sick and tired of it. Oh God, and I'm sick and tired of it. Oh, did you see? I sent you the article. They've put up big, huge roadside billboards about the no hide laws in France. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw a bit of it, but that was what, in 2019 or something?
No, it was in 2023.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Chabad are doing it.
Yeah.
But I guess, maybe have money to spare or something. I don't know. But the thing is, should it ever get serious, somebody's going to say, what's going to happen to these idolaters and blasphemers, and aren't Christians idolaters and blasphemers? And, maybe that's why they're being so shy and so tentative. Because, they don't want to alarm the Christians. But I wish okay, maybe I should read that article I sent you again about the Filipino no-hides. Because Cebu Island is actually dominated by Catholics. And I guess the no-hide laws are, the no-hides are maybe a rejection of Catholicism, or it must have, but it said, what was it? That the kind of the what's the word? They used to be Seventh-day Adventists, and then they became no-hides, something like that. Over time, they became no-hides, and because I guess Seventh-day Adventists have the same, celebrate the Sabbath on the same day as Jews, so they became closer to the Jews, and now they're rabbinically guided. But it seems most of them are illiterate and very poor, and don't have internet, according to that article I sent you by this Jewish woman who was.
Oh my God, and they're so disgusting. They say the Jews have a special racial ability to tap into the power of God and the knowledge of God, and they don't have it. I mean, who talks about themselves this way?
Well, you'd be surprised at the Chinese who have all kinds of, self-help books like, we must be more like the Jews. Oh, look, we're so successful. They control the world. We Chinese must be more like them too. Oh, there was a really funny story about this American YouTuber, and he married he has a Chinese wife, and then he was talking about his Chinese mother-in-law, and how his Chinese mother-in-law was so disappointed because apparently he came from New York, and she thought, oh wow, perhaps he's one of those magic Jews, and then he had to tell her he wasn't Jewish, and she was really disappointed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, actually, in America, the Jews talk about how other Jews have yellow fever. I've heard many Jews talk about this. They call it yellow fever, where all the Jews are marrying East Asian women.
Yeah, I actually know one who hates me living in Taiwan, and apparently she hasn't converted. But okay, so I mean, I think everybody's a bit confused about their own identity, and everyone's a foreigner in somebody else's country and all that kind of thing. But I really think, that the problem can be easily solved. But, it's like you just need a rule book. You don't want some absolute monarch whose word is law and he can change his mind, whenever, for any reason whatsoever. You want to, you want a rule book, and that's what the Constitution is about. And
Mhm.
and okay, I'm pleased today that I had this conversation with this Kevin Talixon person, who's obviously quite theologically knowledgeable as a Christian evangelist. But I think I made all my points, about the role of the American revolutionaries in bringing about the end of Christendom. So, I'm just saying, you guys have to take responsibility because, of the separation of the church and state, and therefore, maybe it was meant to happen. The end of Christendom, the American Revolution, because Christianity was such a horrible religion that the European monarchs rebelled from it. I mean, that was what the Reformation was all about. There were all these kings in Europe saying, no, we're not going to, follow your rules anymore, Pope. And then there were all these wars. And but anyway, Christendom ended in 1918 because the Russian, the Tsar, was murdered along with his family, and the French king was also regicided. And I think all the tumult of Europe, has been caused by Europeans not having a religion that anybody followed. And then you can say, oh, but what the Russian Revolution, they tried, and one of the more interesting questions was like, how come the Chinese managed to hang on to their Marxism, but the Russians didn't? What do you think might be the reason? I mean, I actually don't remember the reason now. Somebody told me, but
Well, maybe they're less dynamic and less able to think their way out of it, and also, yeah, maybe they're less dynamic, and less evolutionary. Though there had to have been some kind of dynamism for them to actually become Marxist in the first place. So, they had, this very bad emperor, and they weren't happy with their emperor, and these different kinds of things. And
well, the same thing with the Chinese. They had an emperor and they got rid of their emperor, and
I was talking about the Chinese, that's why they became Marxist in the first place, because they were unhappy with their emperor. And maybe maybe they feel that it was an improvement, and maybe they just want to leave well enough alone, and it's not working perfectly for them, but maybe they're just saying it's better than nothing. And maybe they just can't think any better. Maybe they can't think of a better world or something different. And they're all becoming capitalist over there, and there's McDonald's and everything in China, and there's more billionaires in China than there are in the United States. So at least that was true when I was a child. I remember learning that in school. There were more billionaires in China than there are in America.
Yes. What I meant really was, why did the Chinese persist in Marxism while the Russians didn't? And I think the Russians are sort of regretting it, because, I mean, obviously, China's doing okay under Marxist Leninism, while the Russians are not in such a good state. And I think it is because, in a way, the the Chinese being a different civilization and a different race from the Americans, who were never Christian, helped protect them against, being persuaded by Ronald Reagan into adopting liberal democracy. So the Chinese could say, it's not our thing. We haven't done that. It's not, and I guess, Reagan might have just said, oh, but we're both white. We're both Christian. But, we're Europeans, aren't we really? That sort of thing. And then the Russians went along with it because they didn't have that, racial and cultural distance that the Chinese had. This is only a theory, but that's kind of, maybe somebody else has a different explanation. But anyway, I'm saying that the Russians are, they don't have a religion either. They sort of want to be cultural Christians. And I've been, wondering why Dugin doesn't just come out and say it, like, we're not going to have this liberal democracy thing anymore, because he's actually infamous for rejecting liberalism. And I thought, well, why don't you just say, well, we're going to go back to Marxist-Leninism. It was a terrible mistake for us to have been persuaded by the Americans to adopt liberal democracy. But he's not saying the sort of thing. And then recently I saw him tweet a video of his daughter talking about, just some prayer about God and Jesus and stuff. And I thought, I guess he's never going to leave it, because, he'll just be, tortured by memories of his daughter, who was so young and pretty, talking about Jesus. So I guess the Russians will also be just clinging to this Christianity thing that they don't seem to understand has failed them, has been failing them for so long. And maybe people should just understand that, the religion isn't the church and the, hymns and the architecture and the whatever. It's about the rules, and you can't see, of course, you can't see the rules. It's boring law stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is what we were talking about in therapy. And
There's something wrong with your audio, because I can't hear you properly now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what we were talking about in therapy, and they were saying, well, faith will make you do the right thing, and you know what I mean, and that if you have faith, you'll do it, you'll do the right thing. And I just said, no, you need actual rules that are enforceable by a court in order to get people, to do things.
Yeah, because they're saying faith, as long as you believe in Jesus, you're going to get to heaven. But what if God isn't Jesus? So you're just believing in the wrong thing anyway. And the purpose of religion is just to give you strength of purpose. So if you really did believe in your religion, that you're going to be rewarded for the good you do, and your enemies are going to be punished for the evil they do, then you can do your thing with more confidence. And that would make it more likely for you to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, you need a workspace for, workspace religion. And if you're going to talk about the afterlife, which you don't necessarily have to, but if you are, then, you would have to be punished for what you did in this world.
Yes, because that is the whole point of believing in the Abrahamic God. You have to believe in the afterlife, because you have to believe that good will be rewarded and evil punished. And obviously, lots of evil people seem to, lead very nice lives. So you have to think that even if this evil person, lived and died in enviable circumstances, he's going to be punished, in the next life. Or you'll think, oh, I just better get myself rich and, not care how I get rich. Because if people would believe in the right way, then they would obey the law, and then they'd be nice to each other, and then, in the end, you would get just laws, and you'd also get, um, an effective administration of justice, so that people, would trust in the system and not question it, and the whole thing will just keep, the engine of state will continue operating. But if everybody doubts what the ruling classes say, then it's going to be very difficult getting anybody to do anything at all. So they're in difficulties now because they can't say anything without being immediately disbelieved. And it's such an old joke. It was actually George Bush Senior who said that you can tell that a politician is lying by the fact that his lips are moving. It's a very old joke.
Hmm.
So I think fundamentally it is really the problem of the most powerful nation on earth not having a moral system. Can we agree on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, there is no, yeah, it doesn't have an official moral system. It doesn't have official, rules like that. So there is the Constitution. Obviously, we forbid murder, we forbid theft, which are,
Yeah,
they're just,
the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. It's like, what is it but a blatant infringement of the First Amendment?
yes. And we were talking about, well, I don't know if it necessarily comes with punishments. I mean, I don't know if they would have to, I don't know if it comes with punishments or
It
what would
doesn't even
happen.
have to be official punishment. It's like, oh, so you're an anti-Semite. Well, we won't give you this job after all. We won't do business with you. We won't, you know, let you marry our daughter or whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be, we're going to throw you into the dungeon and throw away the key. It doesn't have to be like that. It'll just be, well, what we have in our power to withhold from you, we will. And that will be enough to make people frightened. I mean, why they took such firm action in the Ivy League universities is because they didn't want, another situation of the student protests of 1968. So they clamped down on it pretty damn quickly to see that it didn't become a summer of protest and student sit-ins all over America. I mean, I saw how the police did their job, and basically they were given sticks to clear away the people, just like in India, no questions asked.
Well, they were being an unruly mob and setting up tents and encampments and breaking windows and shit. So, I mean, it's a little bit different. I mean, like I said, like, if they got official permission and they had a cordoned off area on the sidewalk and they were being, civil and they weren't disrupting pathways and, these different kinds of things. And, I know that some of them were shouting, death to Zionists and all that, which I think you should be able to say death to Zionists, because if you can say death to communists, death to Republicans, death to Democrats, why can't you say death to Zionists? But I don't know why. I think that should be just fine speech, and I don't think anyone, if you think that Zionists are horrible, horrible, horrible people. I mean, what if you said, death to Kim Jong Il or whatever his name is over in, North
Mm.
Korea, or death to the North Korean regime? I mean, okay, fine, you believe they're worthy of death. You think that they're bad people and all this other kind of stuff. Is that really? I don't know. I don't know. Like, you're not actually saying death to the.
Inciting violence, like let's go and kill him now. It's difficult to judge, isn't it? If I say death to communists, and there's well, I mean, is it just an expression of opinion, or is it incitement to kill? We don't really know, and I guess the police just said, well, we're going to interpret it as an incitement to kill, or whatever the reason they say is. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the police are given orders, and they'll follow it. But what I was going to say about Israel is that there's so much prestige tied up in Israel that I'm sure okay, supposing the Chinese ever got to um, administer Israel, I mean, the fact is that it's like they think that the Jews are magic, and it's like, oh, we must be the most powerful nation on earth now. To be in charge of Israel, we're going to hang on to our first prize, and never give it up. I mean, you can see all these thoughts probably forming in the minds of the Chinese, which is obviously going through the minds of the neocons. Can't give it up. We would lose too much face. And oh yes, and I happen to know some people in Israel, and I got sent pictures of how they celebrate their Independence Day, and I thought, this seems a bit like the 4th of July, the barbecues in the park and stuff like that. So they basically celebrate it in the way that you do. Is that how you celebrate Independence Day? With
Sometimes people
barbecues in the
do.
park?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, there would be things like that, barbecuing in the park. Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, that's another sign that Israel is another American colony. I mean, the other one, I don't know if I showed you the Tovia Singer video of him, being really annoyed at all these Christians coming and shouting at Jews to be Christian. And I thought, well, I really don't think the Jews own Israel. Obviously the Americans do, and the Americans would be um, encouraging the Christian Zionists to, go and harangue the Jews to be Christian, which they do. I'm saying I was quite disappointed with Mujahid. I mean, I know. I mean, there are Chinese people who, they have this view of the Jew who is so powerful and sinister, and they all do, things with a particular, objective that they all share, at the same time, and they're so clever and so powerful, and nothing will change until the Messiah comes. It's this sort of hopeless attitude, and I'm saying I'm going to be taking a different one, which is that of pity and compassion in being the servants of the American empire, not even knowing what they're doing. Because I really think that the Jews are just a mascot of the American empire, and they're just a symbol. It could be a flag or a standard, and basically, it's the Americans saying, we're looking after the Jews because that's what we have to do. It's the right thing to do. We have to look after these poor Jews and protect them in little Israel, and and that is the you know their white man's burden kind of thing, and this is the myth that we're all expected to accept. But the trouble with being a mascot is, if it is lost or destroyed, they'll find something else to replace it.
But maybe anything would be better than Israel. I mean, Israel is a really heavy mascot, whatever you call it, to carry. I mean, that's a heavy burden. That's a very heavy burden. That's probably the most heavy burden in the world, if anything. And it's a heavy burden, and to choose that over anything else, well, why not make your own interest, your reason for living, and make America first, and
Yeah. I mean, you've got enough land to be self-sufficient. You don't have to control the world. I mean, it's just that you can't help it. It's like, oh, Eastern Seaboard to, send our, battleships, you know, and of course the Western Seaboard. So, ideally, you've got all the wherewithal to be a global empire, but it has its costs. I mean, because the thing about having an empire is that eventually it will be so big that you won't even care about your own people.
1 second, 1 second. Well, just, yeah, find something else. I'm tired of it. And this anti-Semitism awareness act is only going to create more anti-Semitism. It's
And that is the intention. I'm sure, okay, if I ran the CIA, I'd be dividing and ruling everyone. Just divide the Jews from the Gentiles, and use the hatred thus provoked for more acts of censorship, and keep everybody separate so they don't gang up on you and overthrow you. And this is just divide and rule, which is what empires do to their own people, of course, as well as subject peoples. But you can see how it would work, and eventually the empire will get so big, and the original people that started it, such like the Romans, they become only a minority, and this is also what is happening.
yeah.
So, and I suppose Israel has always been the prize. The British had it for a bit, the Palestine Mandate, and before that, the Ottoman Empire. It's like, the kind of like, well, if you're really wealthy, you might buy a football team or a yacht to show how rich you are, or I guess these days you get a space station or something, or buy Twitter.
I mean, I don't know. I just want it to end. I don't know. Like,
Well, I have suggested that you could, well, I'll go with, you could just confirm that I am the Messiah substitute and see how things go.
oh God, maybe on my deathbed, Claire, let's say, I don't know, but I'm getting to the point where I'm at a total loss because it's just, everyone is so dumb. Everyone is
I
so
think they can
dumb.
understand, if they can understand Messiah and Messiah substitute, and Jews done wrong, and Muslims done wrong, and Christians done wrong, and having to repent. And get themselves some rules. Well, I think they can understand. It's a simple enough narrative, isn't it? And I think even if you're an atheist, you understand instinctively, this idea of, divine punishment for disobedience, and remorse and redemption, and the Book of Jonah, that kind of thing. It's very easy to understand, and that's why I think the divine narrative can dislodge the official government narrative. And I don't think I'm saying anything surprising, because if you understand the whole theory of God, and it's just a problem-solving system. If you don't believe in it, but obviously it would help if you did, because then the whole thing would take on, a bit more drama. I mean, if you really, really did believe something, then you're going to do whatever you're supposed to do, with more conviction and focus, and people will be able to tell. So, I mean, it's not going to be that hard to say, look, Christianity was always meant to fail. I mean, are they going to say, oh, but we're riding high, look at us? I mean, they can't say that. And if they did try to say it, I mean, there are all kinds of arguments we could use. I mean, I think really you just have to win the argument, and when it is won, people will, obviously have to accept that you won, and they can only accept that you won if they can remember the arguments. And there is a way of making sure that, people remember it. I mean, I've heard so many debates, and at the end of it, you say, "Oh, who won the debate?" And people aren't even sure what the argument was about. I mean, all they know is they liked, person A, and they hated, person B. But there is a way of um, working it out. Do you remember when David was talking about flowing debates? Did you ever participate in debates when you were at school?
Yes, I was in debate club and moot court.
Oh, very good. And did you know how to flow debates? What was an expression you're familiar with?
No.
So, I think what David meant was, you know, in response to what person A said, person B said this, and that's this argument, and then, it's a kind of short form way of saying he said, and then she said, and then he said, and then she said, and the conclusion and whatever. But obviously you have to know where to look for it, because people are talking all the time, and you have to look for the proposal and the opposition and whatever, so you
Yeah,
can keep track of the argument. And I'm
so
saying,
this is different than the Lincoln Douglas version of debates.
oh,
I
oh
don't know.
what's
I don't
that?
know. Here in America, we have something called the Lincoln Douglas debates. I think it's a form of debate. I think it's a debate form, like a way it's set up, and I can't remember what it is, but yeah, it's called the Lincoln Douglas debates. It's very famous here in America.
Okay, I'll have a look. Who was Douglas? Or was he no president?
I think he was a presidential candidate. He must have been going up against Lincoln because it's named after Lincoln. He was debating Douglas, so
Okay, it was a series of 7 debates in 1858. Uh, okay. So the debates were designed to generate publicity. Blah, blah. Oh, okay. So basically, they went to Ottawa, Freeport, Jonesboro, Charleston, Galesburg, Quincy, and Alton. Right. So they were the precursor to what is now called a media event. Okay, so it's basically what you have now between presidential candidates, but on TV. I
yes.
guess
And Donald Trump did horrible in that last debate. He was so horrible. He kept interrupting, and he was just doing, oh God, he was so horrible. His decorum was just disgusting, and it just made him look like shit.
Crikey, it says here. Each debate lasted about 3 hours. One candidate spoke for 60 minutes, followed by a 90-minute response and a final 30-minute rejoinder by the first candidate. Nobody could stand that now.
No, nobody could. Yeah, that's the thing. People don't have these long attention spans anymore. I mean,
They were
nothing.
held outdoors, weather permitting, from 2 to 5 p.m. There were fields full of listeners. Imagine that.
I don't even know how people would hear what they were saying without megaphones. Now we have microphones and all these different kinds of things. I don't know how people heard if you were in like this massive field. I guess you had to scream at the top of your lungs for anyone to be able to hear you. But I know that they used to have these massive tent revivals here in America. There were tent revivals. I wonder, it's interesting. I wonder if Lincoln ever chimed in about Mormonism, because Mormons, were around at that time. They were around at the time of the Civil War. And I'm wondering if he had anything to say about that. And that would be interesting. I want to look that up. Lincoln and the Mormons, if he had anything to say about them. It's a whole state, and it is the fastest growing religion in America. I'm surprised that, they don't actually, who made Hillary Clinton made like this kind of appealing video to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and there's less Seventh-day Adventists in America than there are Mormons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how anyone could believe the Book of Mormon. I don't know how anyone could take it seriously. It just shows how stupid people are.
Well, I think they probably thought the polygamy thing was a runner. And,
But
I guess you had women who didn't mind being, one of the wives of a man. And I'm sure there were lots of men who thought that, they were up to the job.
But there were ridiculous things of it. People join religions for unscrupulous reasons. And even Stephen J. James was like, I said, I asked him, I said, look, if you were born a Mormon, first of all, do you really believe a bunch of Jews got on a boat and sailed to America and became the Native Americans, and that there were wars here and temples and metalwork and elephants and sheep and horses and all this other kind of stuff that the Book of Mormon says we're here, when there's absolutely no evidence for it? And he said, well, yes, I would stay Mormon. You know what I mean? He would, even though
I know
all
somebody who
this,
said that too. It's like, well, if it means staying a member of the group, I'll pretend to believe in the Trinity. What the hell?
I know, but this is
Extraordinary.
that's a disgusting reason to stay in a religion.
Well, I guess most people are quite unprincipled.
They're unprincipled. They have no principles. And I would never join a religion just to be part of a club and, or to have, I would never do that. I don't, it is nice to be part of a club. I will admit that. And it's also very hard not to be part of a club. But I could never just, accept a religion that I thought was bogus. I just couldn't. And who is the one you talk about it all the time? Someone who said it's easier to not believe in the Trinity, but they don't care.
Michael Jones, because I can't remember how it came up, but that was the third time I spoke to him, and he agreed with me. It's like, Arianism was easier to believe than Trinitarianism.
But he doesn't care.
He doesn't care because his identity is Catholicism, and I was just thinking today that he doesn't have a solution. He's just about blaming Jews, and then when he won't even answer questions about what, okay, so what you're going to do if you're Pope. And he said, "Oh, I wouldn't presume to, have these fantasies, but we sort of know." But he sort of said that he would be, converting Jews to Judaism, sorry, to Catholicism, and Jews won't be the only ones he would convert. He would forcibly convert to Catholicism. He'd be converting all these Anglicans and all these sort of, non-Catholic Christians, if he could.
Yeah, I don't really think Nick Fuentes is a Catholic. I think he just uses it as they just use it as some kind of it's just
a mascot or something.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I don't really think that he's a Catholic. He's just so sleazy and slimy, and he's so obviously homosexual. And, it's like he doesn't act anything like a Christian. And oh God, I just, I don't like that. It's like, well, it's a little bit different, but I was just thinking the other day, like, Jehovah's Witnesses have this problem where men convert because they want virgin wives, and the girls that were raised Jehovah's Witnesses are virgins. And, they want a submissive wife who hasn't slept around, who doesn't do drugs, who doesn't get drunk, who doesn't, do all these different kinds of things. So they just convert to get married. And they're not really there because they actually believe it. It's a big problem. So, I mean, the thing is that okay, it's a problem and not a problem, because if you're hiding it, I mean, if you're following the religion to the T, but you're just doing it to have your wife, then I mean, nobody's going to notice, right? I mean, as long as you're not breaking the rules, no one's going to notice that you're not actually sincere. But I did one time I was on the train once and I saw someone reading the New World Translation, which is the name of their Bible. And I approached him and I started talking to him and I asked him if he was Jehovah's Witness. And he said, yes, but I'm just there for my wife. He said, I do believe in a lot what they say, but not everything. But my wife's Jehovah's Witness and I want to be with her, so I stay one. You know, it's very common. But that's not a reason to be part of a religion.
Well, I think it's a demonstration of moral agency, to reject the religion of your parents and to embrace a different one. Well, it just means that you have thought about it. While many people will say, well, this other religion sounds more reasonable, but I'm not going to be changing my religion, even though I think my religion is silly, because I don't want to offend my mum and dad and, brother and sister and everybody else in the family. So, yeah, I think, people don't really think the whole thing through, but I think it's really the only sign of moral agency you can have. And I'm saying it's actually quite easy if you put it in this way, which is that just imagine you're an orphan and you don't have to worry about your parents and family, disapproving of your choice of religion. Just imagine you have a country to run, and that there are only five, world religions you can choose from. Which one are you going to choose if you want to be a good ruler? There's only one, isn't there, Vincent? You have to agree on that.
No, I would choose. I mean, if I had to choose, then I would choose Neurohydism, because I just do not. I don't. If I were to believe in this at all, I would just say God. I would find it very hard to believe that God told the Jews he would always take them back, and then he reneged on that. You know what I mean? Like, I
We
would also
don't
find.
renege on it. I'm saying even if Jews all converted to Islam, they'd still be God's chosen people because, it would be, imagine if the Chinese, asked after the Jews had all converted to Islam, oh, where did the chosen people go? And it's like, oh, they converted to Islam. Oh, so they converted to Islam. Maybe we should too. Or whatever, if they wanted to convert to
Well,
Christianity.
yes, but they created the Noahide laws, and I don't think that they just did it for nothing. And I know you say the only reason they were created was to rank the four Gentile religions, but I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe. I
Okay,
find that
you said the Noahide laws came into being after Christianity uh, was it? Actually, I'm not sure now.
yes, it came after Christianity.
Okay, so it if they were doing it for a purpose, I guess they were saying Christianity is so wrong. We can only, drop a few hints to these terrible people who are, doing the very opposite of what God wants because they worship a man. But obviously, over the centuries, they kind of forgot about it. And now they're too afraid to say. And I'm saying they're too afraid to say because, sometimes if you say something, someone might say, well, why didn't you say that before? And the reason is not a good one. Because look, for these Jews, it's like, they're supposed to really believe. And if they did really believe it, it's like, do with me what you will, but I'm going to speak truth to power and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of your silly religion. Because, imagine if they all did that. And history is on record like, oh, all these Jews, they told these Christian monarchs exactly what they thought of their religion. And these Christian monarchs all, burnt them all at the stake. And that was the end of Jews. But history will, kind of work out, what the Jews did. That they, martyred themselves to make a point about Christianity. And if they did that, then all these terrible wars in Europe and and these world wars started by these Christians would never have happened.
Yeah.
And I think, if there is a third world war, it'll be started by Christians again. And then I think, the West will just not, Westerners and Christians will not be well thought of if they start a third world war. So I don't see why you can't just confirm that you think I'm the Messiah substitute, and then and just go on from there. Talk to other people and see. The thing is, it's not like I'm saying accept me as the Messiah. I'm not. I'm saying the opposite. So unless you think that the Messiah is going to come, I think you should feel pretty safe saying that. I mean, nobody's going to contradict you, and we can play with the idea a bit. I mean, look, Arvol, do you know the latest thing he's doing?
Mm-mm.
So he said, come to my community, and we're all going to be, white nationalists together because, this is all they can come up with. So what's going to happen? Oh, but they're going to accuse him of being a cult leader sooner or later. Because he's going to start his own religion. And what does it mean if you start your own religion and you have your own community? You're a cult leader. And we know what happens to cult leaders.
How did he get that land? Is he rich?
I don't know.
He has land, though, right?
Yes, I know he's managed to get some land. But, I mean, how is living on your own reservation, like the Amish, going to save your country?
That's what I tell them. This whole thing, let's go live in the woods stuff is just nonsense. I mean, you're just gonna get yourselves killed. They think, first of all, they think that without, they think all the white people are gonna withdraw from society and then it'll just collapse and they'll all be able to live in the woods happy. That's not, first of all, other countries that aren't white, they're not running well, but they're not collapsed, and they can still manage to get a military, and a non-white, taking over the cities and over the government and over the military, they'll be able to stand themselves and feed themselves enough to cause you problems. It's not like they're just totally going to lose everything. There might be problems. It might run like a third world, but it could still cause you problems. And if you're all just scattered all into these in the woods, they could just come in and get rid of you.
Well, I think he's a bit autistic too. So, did you listen to him talking to Joel Davis?
No.
Maybe not. So, apparently they spoke to each other about a year ago, and I thought that's not really good enough. I mean, I'm not expecting them to talk to each other every day or almost every other day the way we do, but I think it's been very, very helpful to me that I mean, I know people laugh at us for discussing the same thing over and over and over again, but I think it is necessary to understand, the position very, very thoroughly. And so basically, Arval and Joe Davis spoke to each other a year ago, and it's like, and only a year later could he bring himself to talk to Joe Davis again. And I don't think he particularly enjoys these sort of things. I don't think he can do it.
Who,
You know,
Arvel?
oh, the guy you wrote to on Twitter
Yeah,
saying
Arvel.
him, yes. And I know he doesn't like talking to people who don't already agree with him, and he can't take it, and a lot of them are like that. I mean, they prefer talking to their echo chamber, but Joe Davis is interesting in that you should listen to it because I think it's quite important. So basically, Joe Davis said, I tried, I really tried to believe in the Trinity, and I can't do it anymore, and that's it. I'm no longer Christian. I just can't do it anymore. So that was the interesting development that I kind of wanted you to note. And but Joe Davis, interestingly, says he still believes in God. So that gives me hope in that at least you can still reason with him. Well, Arval thinks, oh, I'm off to my little community, and I'm going to cook up a religion that is Christianity but blended with Hinduism, and save my people that way.
I just want to be dead. That's it. I'm just tired of all this. I think it's all just nonsense and garbage, and I think people are dumb. And I mean, I'm just on the verge. I don't even fucking want to know anymore. I don't fucking want to listen to people anymore.
Hmm.
Anyway, Claire, we've been going for a while, and I'm getting tired.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, talk to you.
How long have we? We've been going for 2 hours.
That's pretty good. Well, thank you for coming.
Yep. All right. Bye.
Bye.